if you don't know, if you're one of the few people that lives in Timbuktu and you have not been keeping up with the Trayvon Martin thing.
Or one of the few people who does not normally listen to the Daisy Deadhead show.
Exactly.
If you did, for the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about Trayvon.
And last week, Gregg and I, along with other occupiers, other Green Party people, went to the rally for Trayvon Martin. It was Justice for Trayvon Martin in Cleveland Park. I took some very nice pictures, which, again, you can see on my blog. And, you know, that was interesting because I think it looks angry in the pictures, but it was actually a very sedate rally. If anything, I thought it was too sedate. And there were actually 25 or 30 preachers there, and they actually came forward and named themselves. But when you've got 25 or 30 preachers, people are not going to misbehave. They're just not going to. Everybody was very polite, very well-mannered.
No, F the police.
Right, nothing. In fact, you had, like I say, preachers getting up and talking, a lot of praying. In fact, it seemed like a supplication more than a rally. It seemed like there's all these primal paintings that I've seen where a group or a tribe comes together and puts their hands out up to heaven. And in these pictures, the last picture on my blog, I put, I think, 12 or 13 pictures. The last one has a whole bunch of the rally, the whole group from across the street. And you'll see a little red tent in the middle. And everybody crowded around that tent, and that was like the center. And it was almost like that was the prayer center of the rally. And people were supplicating. People were asking God why. It was actually a very moving rally. I guess the pictures probably looked really angry, although I don't think they did. I think they looked pretty somber. But if you're the kind of person, okay, if you're a racist and you think that black people are going to, hurt you and they're all bad and they're all evil, well, maybe you think those pictures are dangerous, or maybe you think those pictures are scary, or maybe you think a rally is scary. I don't really understand what's going on in the last week, but I have never seen such a thing in my life. I've never witnessed such an embarrassing spectacle of racist crap from Fox News and Bill O'Reilly and all of those clowns. Oh, we can't try somebody in the media. I wonder if Casey Anthony's laughing at that. Is she laughing at that? Because that's the only time I've ever wanted to know what she thought about something. They tried her in the media, and how well did that work? So I guess you really don't have anything to worry about, do you? If anything, here's one thing I wanted to say. If this ever comes to trial, which apparently he's not even going to be busted or arrested, so I guess George Zimmerman, the person who shot Trayvon Martin, will never even come to trial. But if he does, you can expect him to get off. But how does that work, you say? Well, as in the Casey Anthony thing, some of us got to have access to evidence the jury did not even have. And that happens with the new TV trials. They come back and give you all this talk, because I watch court TV, or as it's called True TV now, which is a dumb thing to call it since it's not necessarily true at all. But anyway, TRU TV instead of court TV. I still say court TV because a lot of the programming is courts. But a lot of times they'll come back and you'll think, okay, what was that? What happened? What was that? And they'll have to explain it to you. The legalese will have to be explained by actual lawyers. And, this is not admissible, this is admissible, this is not admissible, something else is not admissible. It makes no sense. There is no rhyme or reason to it. It all is about the jury and the judge and what they decide. Because one thing can be admissible in one court, prior bad acts, for instance, and another trial will not be admissible at all. So you're looking at Zimmerman, who called 911 31 times or some crazy thing like that in the 6 weeks before he actually got to, shoot somebody. And he was itching to do that. Obviously, that would probably be ruled inadmissible, prior bad acts. That's irrelevant. And, depending upon the judge and the judge's bias, it might be ruled inadmissible. And you can strip away evidence piece by piece until you can't convict anybody. And that's exactly what they did to Casey Anthony, and why everybody was uproar, because we knew lots more than the jury knew about her. We knew all kinds of things that they could not put in evidence. That crazy service they had for her daughter, where all this crazy stuff they were talking about. Weird stuff. It really did point to guilt on her part. I mean, acting guilty, being guilty. And you can't, they couldn't really judge on that. They couldn't really judge on those things. Back in the day, you could. You could look at somebody and say, that's not what somebody should be doing. That's not how somebody should be acting when their child is missing. They shouldn't be stripping and getting naked and jumping on the top of the bar and la da da da. Wow, she spent all her time looking for her child. No, she didn't. Look at the pictures. Some of that was ruled okay, and some of it wasn't. And that's why there was such an uproar. The same thing would happen in this case if he is ever brought to trial. So keep in mind, just because you arrest somebody does not mean you'll get a conviction at all.
No, and this is, well, actually, last Saturday at the rally for justice for Trayvon Martin, I went prepared with 200 flyers to distribute, to promote the radio show.
Isn't he just the most wonderful thing?
And
what would I do without my consigliere?
And not wanting to just totally ignore the reality of what we were involved with there, I put down a list of what the Daisy Deadhead show's demands are, or expectations are. And they included the resignation or firing of the chief of police.
Absolutely.
The resignation or firing of the city manager of the city of Sanford, Florida. The abandoning stand your ground laws.
Which are also in South Carolina, by the way.
They are, absolutely.
And see, this is the question I have for Bill O'Reilly.
And arresting Zimmerman and prosecuting Zimmerman, because whether or not Zimmerman is responsible, whether or not he committed a crime, I mean, I cannot imagine this being the case. Whether or not him killing Trayvon Martin itself is a crime, you cannot tell me that no crimes were committed in the process of him being killed.
Well, see, if you go...
Undoubtedly, firing a weapon inside the city limits itself is an illegal act. So,
well, this is the two things I always come back to, these two facts. If anybody wants to call in, do we have the number? If anybody wants to call in and argue with me, you must answer these two things.
864.
We're getting the number.
228-9347.
Which is also 864-228-WFIS.
Yes, it is.
But I can never transfer those numbers. I can never do that. You got to tell me, if you call me and argue about this, you have to tell me, number one, why was he right to get out of his car in the first place, and why did he? And second, when he was told not to follow him by the 911 caller, who said, we don't need you to do that, and Zimmerman replied, okay. That is a matter of record, and that is on the tape. Now, if he said okay, why was he allowed to go ahead and lie? And why is everybody still defending this man when he is an obvious liar? Okay? George Zimmerman's a liar. He said okay, and then he completely went against what that 911 person said to do. Now, that's a liar. Why do you believe this man over the victim? Gee, why do you think they do, Greg? I can't imagine. If that was a woman, I'm wondering, if Trayvon was a woman and he'd gotten out and stalked a woman, would that fly? What would people say about that? People would say that he was stalking somebody. People would say he had nefarious intent. And yet he's allowed to get out and stalk this black minor.
Right.
Still legally a child. Oh, but he was tall. I don't care. What? Oh, you're allowed to follow them if they're tall, Greg. Did you know that? You can get out of he did not have a cop car or a cop uniform. He's allowed to just get out of his car and say, yo, stop over there. I mean, what? Has everybody lost their minds?
Well, see, this is where the stand your ground law becomes just so ridiculously fuzzy. Who in the world was standing their ground?
Exactly.
Trayvon was being followed by someone he did not know.
With no uniform.
If he turned around and popped George Zimmerman right in the face and smacked the hell out of him, as far as I'm concerned, Trayvon Martin would be the one who was within his rights. And
if
George
he was a woman,
Zimmerman
we'd say
was
that.
not within his rights at all.
If he was a woman,
and shoot the guy.
If he was a woman, everybody would say right on for fighting back.
Absolutely, they would be right.
Unless maybe it was a black woman. A white woman, though, oh yeah, she'd be a hero overnight. She'd be on, television.
As would be appropriate.
I have a call. Somebody going to argue with me? Bring it. You're on the air.
Hello.
Who is this?
Hey, this is Double A.
Double A.
Hey, Double A.
Hey, Double A.
Hey, I just want to bring up something that you didn't exactly point out, but, you compared this to the Casey Anthony case.
Uh-huh.
It seems like both cases, they might have got a little bit of special treatment. You notice that Casey Anthony is a policeman's child.
Yes,
and George Zimmerman's is the son of a judge.
Uh-huh.
Seems like some people get preferential treatment.
That would explain a lot. Yeah, and, George Anthony did talk police to them, now that you mention it. He did talk all that, whatever.
And he'd assaulted a cop, like, a few years ago, and he got off then, too.
Right.
And people can get off from that.
Yes.
Unless you're the son of a judge.
That's right. And thank you for pointing that out to me, Double A.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you for listening. And thank you for thinking that we're the best thing on the radio.
Oh, you are the best thing on the radio. You're almost as good as Beach Bob.
Well, thank you. I don't even know the oldies.
Way better than John Boy and that other ass. I mean, that other boy.
You caught yourself. Thank you. Thanks, Double A. Bye.
That reminds me of Santorum's near slip.
What did he say?
He said, we should be able to find it on the interwebs, but he said something along the lines of, President Obama has got a NIGS attitude towards things. A NIGS attitude.
He didn't.
Yes.
He didn't. Yes. Oh, man. Man.
He said a NIGS attitude about things. Like he caught himself halfway through. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't going to say Niagara,
Chris Matthews once said, this is my favorite, where he says he's not some candy type person, and he was getting ready to say something else. He's not a candy type person. I thought, what kind of candy type person does he mean? He meant something else. It cracked me up really bad. But yeah, I love it when they catch themselves. And that's what I'm thinking. This is like, Freud would say, this is transference, and what they're really upset about is a black president. And they can't do anything about that, so let's just beat up this kid.
Well, or
that's what it sounds like to me.
About black empowerment, black power, black promotion.
This is what's brought them out of the woodwork.
Even a little bit.
This is what's caused this big rollback this last week, this big defense of Zimmerman on Fox. I can't believe it, but Fox has led the way.
Yeah, sure.
Fox and Rush Limbaugh and all of them have led the charge to defend this beleaguered white man. Oh, no, he's not white. Well, then why are you treating him like a white man to him? Obviously, he's whiter than Trayvon, so he's the one you're going to pick in this fight. All right? And his name's Zimmerman, so we like him. Because Trayvon, it's all really, you could be blind and get this. Trayvon Zimmerman. You don't even have to be able to see color to understand what's going on with this.
Oh, no
You know
question.
what I'm saying? Just look at the names. And so Fox has taken the side of George Zimmerman, and I'm just shocked by this. I think it has been a direct reaction to all of the, Al Sharpton or me or other people sticking up for Trayvon, asking questions about this. They seem to be literally reacting to black power. I've never seen such a direct response to black people, such a racist direct response. I can't remember the last time I've seen this except against the president.
Right. No, I think you're right. One of the things that you talked about, that there were more than 1,000 people at Cleveland Park last Saturday. One of the things that you talked about was the dominance of, or not the dominance of, the abundance of preachers who were there.
Lots of preachers, and they identified themselves
carefully.
And they all got up and said where they were the preachers, and yeah.
One of the people who also spoke was an occupier, and that's Ifeah Wangaza, and she stood up and said, yes, we are right to put this in the sense of right and wrong. Someone was killed, someone killed. It's, that right and wrong dynamic is there. But we can't ignore the racist dynamic to this either.
Right.
And that's what has been happening. What she was trying to get people to do was to say, we can't ignore the fact that a white man got out of his car armed and followed down a dark corridor a young black man that he had no reason to suspect was or was not armed. Actually, it would make more sense, using Occam's razor, to assume that a man that young was unarmed.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense to assume that he was.
Right.
So,
well, he was obviously
Zimmerman hunted him down. I'm sorry. It's that simple.
He did.
And I don't know. I'm sorry. You asked earlier how could you come to another conclusion? The only way you could do that is if you're a racist bastard.
Well, the only way. I'll tell you what. If you just change it around, like I say, what if this was a white man or a white woman? Ask yourself. Play around with that. Ask yourself, what would be the response if a neighborhood watch guy shot a white guy?